Welcome in campers to another choice board video. This one is for fluing the form for our Google Forms choice board. And this one is not for the weak of heart. If you have never heard of AutoCrat or used it, chances are this one is going to be a little bit to wrap your head around, but I'm going to attempt to sum it up and demonstrate it in just a short video here. This really comes down to you have a form where you're collecting data from people, and then you want to kind of repackage their data to send back to them, or the fact that you're filling out a form and then wanting to send your submissions to individuals as opposed to giving them access to see all of your responses in sheets. So it's a little bit more private and personalized. So this little visual here is the idea that we start with our Google form. We have a template where we want to kind of repackage that data so it looks nice and neat, and it's in PDF form or something where people just get to see those results. And then we're using the Google Sheet and the AutoCrat add-on or extension to make those two things talk to each other so that the document is ready to receive that data in the specified locations within the document so that it, again, packages it all nicely for whoever is receiving that information. So if you're already like, wait, what? It's okay. There's another tutorial video here. If you click on the YouTube icon, that'll walk you through it a little bit more in-depthly. In-depthly? I guess that's a word. I don't know. But again, I'm going to show you just a quick demo here. So for example, we had these handy dandy little handouts, and I'll wait for my camera to pop back up. Or not. Let's see. Still hanging out over here? Okay. We had these little handouts that we made for you guys that were laminated for kind of examining each task that we've given you and evaluating them for the 4Cs to see did we get a lot of those in there or not. Now, as fun as these are to have just here at camp to do real quick with a whiteboard marker, you obviously wouldn't do this if you were trying to work with colleagues to assess your lesson activities. You'd want something a little bit more digital and sustainable. So this is why I created a Google Forms version of it. Let's see if my camera follows me. There we go. Hi. So I made the same tracker, or I made the same content into a tracking form. And what we have here is a few key questions to start. So let's say if I was doing this as a instructional coach and I was working with teachers on if we had a goal of wanting to infuse more of the 4Cs in our instructional content and activities, I would use this to put in the teacher name that I'm working with. So I would have Mark here, for example, then his email address, and then I would select what subject they are currently teaching or doing with the students. I would have a summary of the activity so I can jog my memory and jog their memory of what it was that was observed. And then I've got a section here for each of the 4Cs and a very simple yes, no, or unsure question response. And again, we're just kind of looking for a quick walkthrough kind of idea. So we've got that same thing for creativity, communication, and collaboration. So not an in-depth form at all, just very quick and to the point. I saw evidence of it or I didn't. Now, if you wanted to get really fancy and put in kind of a reflection piece after each of these so that you could jot down more notes, obviously you can do that. That's what's the beauty of Google Forms and having those different question types. But for the sake of this demonstration, I wanted to keep it simple. So first off, in your form, you want to go to responses and make sure that you have generated a Google Sheet. Mine says view in Sheets. If you didn't already have one, it would say link to Sheets. So mine's ready to go, which is right here. We'll see if my camera follows me from tab to tab here. Oh, hi again. All right, so the first thing that I like to do in the Google Sheet, you'll see that all of these are cut off and they look all identical. So I'm like, I don't even know what those are. So I like to wrap the text within the cells so it's not cut off and I can clearly read what is in each column. So once my sheet finally loads here, I'm going to click in the gray rectangle here right in the left corner, upper left corner, to select all of the cells in the sheet. And then I like to come over here to the text wrapping icon, do the little drop down arrow, And then I select the one in the middle, which is text wrapping, so that it doesn't cut off any of your text. And now you can see, all right, now I see the little emojis to let me know which one we're looking at. So that's much, much better, as opposed to all of them just saying the first 4 or 5 words of the question type. All right, so now I've got those. It's easier to see. It's easier to have a tickle in your throat when you do all this talking. So I've got my form established and my sheet, but now we go back to that other part where we need a template of some sort to repackage that data so that we can deliver it to the individual as opposed to giving them access to see everybody's responses. So in this case, I'm going to use a Google Doc, which I've created here. You see I've got a nice little table in here, and it's got all of the same questions that are in the form. So subject, gist of the activity, and then each of the sections for the 4 C's. And you'll notice I don't have on here the name of the person, which I should add actually here at the top in this column here. But you'll notice also I've got where it says subject, and then it says subject again, but it has these little carets next to it, or tags. So that's the key part when we use AutoCrat to have the two talk to each other. So it says, all right, this document, I'm going to go back to the form and I'm going to find the answer for this question that has this topic, and I'm going to bring it in and put it in this part of the document. So it's a little bit of coding going on, if you will. All right, so here is how you get it all together. So once I've got my template set up, my sheet, and my doc, or my form, clear as mud so far, right? I'm going to go back to my Google Sheet, and I'm going to go to extensions, and I'm going to go to add-ons and get add-ons if I don't already have AutoCrat, but you can see I've got it right here. So I go to AutoCrat and I go to launch. Oh, and I think it just selected emoji instead. What is going on? Let's try that again. Extension, AutoCrat, launch. I'm asking my Chromebook to do a lot with recording all this stuff. And if you are not already watching this video in 1.5 speed, you might want to, just so you have enough time to get through it. I'm hoping it's not going to end up being too long, but you never know. All right, new job is where we're going to click first. I'm just going to name it 4 C's Tracker. This is just to keep your own memory of it. Nobody else sees this title. It's just so that when you have multiple jobs, you can tell the difference between them. I'll click next. And I want to use something from Drive. So this is my template. Now, I already did a run through of this practice earlier, so it's listed here, but otherwise I would go to from Drive, find it under my recents, and attach it. But I'm going to go ahead and click use on this one. Notice it said fetching tags from template. That means it's looking for all of those little carets next to terms that I've used. And I wanted to make sure that I had the exact wording as well as capital letters, lowercase, all that from here. So usually when you do that, you want to basically just copy and paste it and then put the carets around it so that it's exact. Because if you have a random space somewhere or you have a typo, it's going to throw a monkey wrench in the whole process. So be very careful with that. All right, I'm going to click next. So here's where it goes through and says, all right, you put this in the document. Well, it matches this column in the Google Sheet that's attached to your Google form. So right away, I have a sigh of relief because I don't see any red flags, because it literally puts a red flag next to something if it doesn't match for whatever reason. So as I scroll down, I'll see that all of these match. Excuse me. And if for some reason one didn't, you could manually map it by selecting from the drop down here. But again, I'm off and running already because I didn't have any that were mismatched, which is good. All right, so I'm going to go next. All right, so for this one, they want you to figure out what do you want to name the copy of the template once it's generated between the two things here. So I'm just going to say, this is where teacher name comes in. So I'm going to put 2 carets, teacher name, and then I'm going to put apostrophe S. So for example, Mark Osmond's would be how this would play out. 4C's evidence. And then I'm going to put 4, and I'm going to do more carets, and I'm going to put timestamp, because then it'll put in the time and date that I went to observe this in Mark's classroom. So that's just going to be the name of the document, so that when I send it to him, he can automatically see, oh yeah, this is when Paul came in to look at what I was doing with the students. All right, and then what type do you want this document to be? If it was a Google Doc, you would have to worry about setting permissions. So can he view, can he comment, can he edit? Obviously, you don't want him to edit your observation, because those are your notes that you're providing to him. So that's why we want to switch it to just a PDF, so he can see a quick screenshot basically of what it was that I was able to see when I was in there. I'm going to click Next. Here's where we need to choose a folder where these documents are going to go once they're generated. And we'll see this is a little wonky. There we go. So I created a folder that I put all of these into. So I put the form, I put the sheet, I put the document, and then I created another folder within that folder that I called 4C's PDFs. So that's probably the best practice for when you're doing a form like this and you're wanting to generate all these outcomes. That way it's all organized in one place. So I'm going to select 4C's. And I'm going to scroll down. Oops, come on now. Let's go back. This is normally not like this. It's being a little wonky, so I don't know what's going on. I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to go back in. And I don't think I'm going to double click. I'm going to click once. And then I'm going to scroll down if it lets me here. Nope, it's just going to keep. There we go. Okay, now that blue select button is good. So hit select. So this is where it's going to dump those generated PDFs once they're ready. I'm going to click next. Sorry for my coughing in these videos. I've been recovering from an illness, so not used to talking so much. All right, for this next one, step 6, we don't actually do anything with this one. You can just hit next. Same for step 7. All right, so here's where we get to, all right, what do you do with that PDF now that it's generated? So we do want to share it. We want to share it as a PDF. Allow collaborators, so we don't need him to reshare it, or it doesn't really matter if he wants to share it with others and say, hey, look what I'm doing. That's great. And I'm not going to send it from a generic no reply address. I'm going to send it from me. And then here is the template for the email. So here's where I'm going to use the tags again to put teacher email. And again, I'm putting that in the form. If you work with a lot of teachers consistently, you may want to consider making that question a drop down where you just enter in their email addresses, so you're not typing it in every time. You just select it from the drop down. All right, so you would do that. And then your subject line would say, here's our latest evidence of the 4C's in your classroom, however you want to word this. Okay, and then you can type in a personalized little message that says, thank you so much for letting me come in and see all of the awesome learning that is happening in your classroom. Attached, you'll find your latest evidence of the 4C's. Let's chat when you have time. Okay, so just something personal like that. And then I'm going to click, or I'm going to scroll down. Yep, click next. And then here is where you're setting off this whole process to be automated without your having to manage it in the back. So you're wanting to run on a form trigger, which means every time the Google form is submitted, that's when it's going to start this process of generating those PDFs and sending out the emails. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is whoever is setting these triggers is the only one who can kind of go in and edit this. So if you're creating one of these for a whole team, Just keep in mind that whoever is setting this up is the one that's kind of in charge of going in and fixing it if and when it has problems. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes. It's uploading project triggers. So again, it's kind of tying it all together. And we don't want to do run on a time trigger, because that would mean it's going to run something every day at a certain time, which doesn't necessarily make sense. So it's every time the form is done. So I'm going to hit save. And then in theory, if my video is not too long at this point, and close this out, I would then fill out the form from the preview link here. I've got it open right here. I would fill this out, and then it's going to generate a PDF and email it to Mark with exactly the content that I put in here. So I'm going to probably end it there just because I don't want this video to be too long. But that's in a gist what flooing the form means by using AutoCrat within your Google Sheet. Whew, that's a lot, I know, but again, just kind of exposing you to the idea and the possibilities, and then look at the other resources that we've linked so that you can really take this and run with it. All right, we will see you guys on the next video.